everyone, welcome to the first ever special episode of the Floating Fiber Knitting Podcast. My name is Serene, and in this channel, I talk all about my knitting and crocheting. So, fall is right around the corner, and for the past week, I've actually felt a little bit chilly in the morning. Although for the rest of the day, it's still very hot. It's a good sign, right? It means the sweater weather is finally coming, and it's time to pull out my lovely mohair knits that has been stored away for the summer and give them some love again. So I think it would be super fun to make this try-on video where I just chat a little bit about my experiences knitting these garments and the fit, what I thought about the patterns, stuff like that. And I have 6 garments in total here. Let me show them to you. Here they are. And I'm very excited to share them because I know many of us knitters are true mohair lovers. And if you're not, maybe you're into Suri alpaca. That works too. And yeah. So, before we get started, I just want to remind you guys, everything I'm going to talk about today, I'll link in the description box down below, and you can find some additional detail to the projects in my Ravelry, and I'll put my Ravelry username here. And one last thing, I'm going to put my body measurements at the end of the description box, so you can check it if you want. And yeah, without further ado, let's get straight into it. First up, we have the Puff Tee by Knitting for Olive. And here it is. It's this saddle shoulder t-shirt design featuring some dramatic poofy sleeves and some double folded neckbands. And let me turn around to show you the whole thing. So, what's unique about this one is the saddle shoulder construction is knitted simultaneously. So rather than some saddle shoulder designs where you have to knit 2 rectangles for the shoulder and pick up stitches all around the rectangles, this one is pretty much like a raglan, like a normal raglan knit, where you just cast on in the round for the neckband and you just increase until the underarm. And split for the sleeves. So it makes it a very low fuss knit, and I really enjoyed the process of knitting this one. And it's very wearable. You can dress it up or down as you wish. You can pair it with jeans like I'm doing here, but you can also pair it with long dresses or short skirts, and those would also be cute outfits as well. So for the yarn, they suggest Knitting for Olive soft silk mohair held double. And I used 1 strand of La Vietnamese silk mohair in the colorway Anem Namu. I hope I'm pronouncing that correctly. It's this very cute warm tone purple base with some speckles of blues and greens and yellow and goldish yellow. And I paired that yarn with 1 strand of drops kid silk mohair and in the shade lavender. And together they made this very subtly variegated color. I'm very happy with the fabric it made. It's the perfect amount of variegation that I expected. Yeah, and it doesn't reduce the design elements at all. Maybe like something too variegated would kind of subtract from the design elements. And yeah. So for the sizing of this one, it comes in 8 sizes and it goes up to a 152 centimeters bust, which is 59 3/4 inch. And I made the size M. And for modifications, I changed all the 1x1 ribbing. So at the neckband, at the cuffs here, and at the hem into 2x2 ribbing. Just because I thought the 1x1 ribbing in the original design looked super tight, but the rest of the garment is kind of relaxed fit. So I just thought 2x2 ribbing worked a little better in this case. And also in general, I just like the look of 2x2 ribbing a little bit more. And I also made these cuffs double folded as well, just to add to the poofiness of the sleeves. And another modification I made is I made a lot of decreases before the hem dripping started to kind of cinch the waist in. Although as you can see, it's still pretty loose, but I think it's a little bit better than not doing the modification. And I also made the hem a little bit longer than instructed in the pattern. And overall, I'm very happy with the finished garment, although there are some things I would like to change about this one. Firstly, is like overall, I just think it's a little bit too big for me. I was bang on gauge and I chose the size according to my bust measurement. And I just think the pattern tends to run a little bit big for this one because I saw many other people's project on Ravelry and I also think they're a little bit big on them. And especially I found this armholes too deep. So my actual underarm is here, but the armhole goes to here. That just means when I raise my arm, the whole garment would raise with my arm like this. So I'm not too happy about that. And another thing is I'm not 100% happy with my yarn trace. So I know I said I'm very happy with the slightly variegated effect this gives, but I just thought I could have paired something a little bit nicer than the Drops Kitsune Mohair that's a little bit more on the affordable side with the luxurious hand-dyed La Vietnamese silk mohair. It's not that I have any problem with the Drops Kitsune Mohair. I have many, if not too many, stashed up. It's just that, you know. And also I think since the La Vietnamese silk mohair is a little bit more fine than the Drops one, I think the Drops one kind of overpowers the hand-dyed one a little bit. And yeah, but still overall I am super happy with this garment. And that transitions us very smoothly into my second piece. And here she is. So this is my second version of the puff tee. It's the same pattern as the previous one, and this time I held two strands of La Vietnamese silk mohair together to make sure that it is the star of the show here. Oh, and by the way, this yarn is a lovely birthday gift from my best friend in the world, Chelsea. I requested the base and she chose the color for me according to her own taste as a birthday surprise for me. And I really love this colorway. It's this goldish, dusty, rosy color. And super feminine and elegant. I really love it. So a big shout out to her. Thank you. And oh, the colorway is bisque. And for the modification, since the previous one I found it a little bit too big, so I went down one needle size, so it calls for a 4.5mm needle size, and I went down to a 4.0mm. And I intended to make a size between an S and an M for this one, but as I was knitting it, I was getting close to splitting for the sleeves, and I still think that the armhole was going to be too deep. So I just increased very rapidly, kind of making up my own pattern as I go here to hit the stitch count, and that worked pretty well. So yeah. And apart from that, I did the same modifications as the first one. So I changed all the 1x1 ribbing to 2x2 ribbing. And for this one, I didn't do the double folded cuff just because I think this colorway is a bit more feminine and elegant. Whereas the previous one, I found it more cutesy. Maybe you don't think so, but like that one is a bit more plump, the fiber. So, and also by the cuffs, I was getting super lazy and I didn't want to do double folded things. And yeah, let's just say it's intentional. And I also made the hem even longer than my previous version, and I like decreased further to make the waist really cinch in. And yeah, that's all the modifications I did, and I'm 100% happy with this version. I think that's a benefit of making something twice, so anything that you're not happy with the first one, you can like change in the second one, and you're guaranteed to have a perfect fitting garment. Oh, let me turn around to show you the whole thing. So this is the front. And yeah, so before I move on to the next one, I just want to talk a little bit about my experiences with the La Bien-Aimée silk mohair. So it is one of my favorite mohairs to work with. It's very, very soft. I feel zero itch factor in it, and I can wear it next to skin, no problem. And it's finer than a typical like commercial brand silk mohair. So it runs for 500 meters per 50 grams skein. And yeah, so it's a little bit thinner, and it has higher silk content than your typical silk mohair. So normally you get a 75% mohair blended with 25% silk. But for LBA's mohair, they blend 70% of mohair with 30% silk. And the silk core is Mohair silk, so the thing is very shiny under sunlight. And yeah, can highly recommend. And they have beautiful, lovely colors. Okay, so now let's move on to my third one. So for the third one, I have the Cumulus Blouse by PetiteKnit. This is a very well-known, well-loved pattern, and I think it's still trending in the first page of the Hot Right Now section of Ravelry. And it's just this top-down raglan sweater with a big amount of positive ease and a rounded V-neck design. And for the details, it's finished with a 4-stitch I-cord all around the V-neck, at the cuffs and also at the hem. So PetiteKnit also came out with an O-neck version of this pattern. So if you're not into the look of V-necks, you can go for that one as well. The suggested yarn for this one is any typical silk mohair held double, and I used Borden Kills design kid silk lace. So she's a hand dyer from Germany that I found on Etsy, and the colorway is Cloud. So when I purchased this colorway and decided to make it into a Cumulus blouse, I didn't really realize that it's kind of the exact same color as PetiteKnit's sample, because at the time she used her rust colored version as her cover for on Ravelry. And it's the picture where she's standing on the beach with this breeze blowing up her hair, and she's holding her son. And I don't know, I must have seen the like dusty blue version, and somehow it made an imprint in my mind. So when I chose color, I just chose the same color as her sample, thinking that I had like an original color choice. I think that's one of the magic of PetiteKnit. Her looks are so classic. Somehow it just gets to me, and I always want to choose the same color as her samples. And yeah, so this pattern comes in 9 sizes. It's inclusive up to a 156 centimeter, which is a 61.5 centimeter, half inch bust, and I made the size M. And I made 0 modifications to this pattern, and it's hands down like the best fitting, not even one of the best, the actual best fitting garment that I've ever made. I think that's the second magic of PetiteKnit, is the fit of our pattern is always so good. And yeah, it's so funny. So earlier this week, I was watching the Wool Seeding podcast. So Rachel, she just recently cast off the Cumulus tee, which is the t-shirt version of this pattern. And she said that, she commented that she thinks everybody and their dogs have to make one, so she felt like she has very little to add to the conversation. Yeah, I pretty much feel the same way. I can just only comment that it is a good pattern. It is one of the best that I've ever knitted. I mean, in terms of fit. And yeah, so highly recommend. And let me turn around to show you the whole thing. So this is the front, and this is the side. I basically lived in this thing when I first cast it off, and then I wore it every day, all day. And until I started noticing some pills at the underarm, and then I had to like wear it on a normal frequency. And yeah, so let's move on to the next one. So next up we have the Casia Crossover by Refined Knitwear, and this pattern is not on Ravelry, so I'm going to link her website down in the description box. So it's just this raglan construction wrap style cardigan, and the main feature for this one are these ruffled kind of puffy sleeve tabs. It's very cord style, and some very dainty and feminine seam front bands that goes down until the hem here. And let me turn around to show you the whole thing. Yeah, so for the suggested yarn, they suggest the Teen Silk Mohair from Sanders Yarn, held double, and I use one strand of hand-dyed mohair from another hand dyer that I found on Etsy called EP Yarn. And the colorway name, I'm not gonna embarrass myself by trying to pronounce it, is a Dutch word. I'm just going to let my iPad do the job for me, so...
Schuimpjes. Schuimpjes.
No. And yeah, so that word basically, I think it translates to a kind of meringue kisses, so the dessert. And it's colored in these very pastel-y greens and pinks and yellow color, and I think that's what inspired the dyer to dye up this yarn. So this yarn has, oh, you can't really see very well, but yeah, I'll put a picture of the skein here. It has pastel-y greens and pinks and yellows. And I paired that yarn with one strand of undyed silk mohair. And I do feel like this design is kind of make me look like a little princess. And I have nothing against that. I think it pairs very well with the colorway. And yeah. So another thing I want to talk about this pattern is that the original pattern is a real cardigan where you can open it up with buttons. So you close it with 3 buttons here, and I really liked the look of that. But when I was attaching the buttons, I attached it to the wrong place. And I also used the mohair yarn to sew the button on. So when I tried to remove it, I cut a big hole in my hem here. And that was a traumatic moment that I don't want to relive. And all I could do was frog back before the hem, and by that point I'm just like not very confident of the process. So I basically just joined everything in a round and just knitted a hem. So now my one doesn't open up. It's a shame because I really like that button look, and I had these very cute little mother of pearl buttons. So well, it is what it is. I mean, I may make another one of this, and I may omit the puffy sleeve here and use those buttons for that ribbon, and we'll see. So the sizing for this one, it comes in 5 sizes. The smallest is 90 centimeters, and it only goes up to 112 centimeters. So it's not, unfortunately, not very size inclusive. And that's 35.5 inch to 44 inch bust. And I made size M. And yeah, I think that's a common issue with these Nordic Scandinavian designers. Their patterns tends not to be very inclusive, and I hope that gradually these will become better. And I do apologize if I'm sharing something that is not like accessible to everybody. And in this year, I'm trying to knit more inclusive, size inclusive patterns. And yeah, and that's everything I want to say about this one. Let's move on to the next one. So next up, we have the Cardigan number 6 by My Favorite Things Knitwear. It's this oversized drop shoulder cardigan with all over lace. And this lace is from the Japanese knitting pattern book. And My Favorite Things Knitwear said she modified it to suit this pattern. And yeah, so it provides a delicate vintage look, and it's knitted top down. So basically you cast for the back, pick up stitches to make 2 fronts, join at the underarm, and just pick up stitches for the sleeves as well. It's a very simplistic construction. And yeah, one thing I want to note about the construction is that these button bands are knitted separately, and then she instructs you to attach it to the main body using crochet. So if you're not like a crochet enthusiast, it may be a little bit painful to try to do that. And yeah, so the suggested yarn for this one is Knitting for Olive Soft Silk Mohair, held triple, and I used 2 strands of Mayflower Silver Kid Silk in the colorway Omphalos, and 1 strand of Drops Kid Silk in the colorway Light Sky Blue. Okay, so the Omphalo is just a little bit lighter, like 1 shade lighter and 1 shade more saturated, I think, for compared to the more dusty bluish Drops Kid Silk that I used. So the 3 strands held together makes like this somehow subtle depth. It's very subtle. Maybe you just see like a solid color here, but for me in person, I can see like this, like a little bit of depth on this one. And yeah, so I made this one specifically for my wedding day. So this is a very, very special piece for me. I'll tell you the whole story. So I decided to make it for my wedding day, like not for my wedding, but for my wedding dinner afterwards, and like a week before my wedding, because I really wanted to wear something handmade on that day, and I was struggling to finish. So I brought it with me to the hotel, and I stayed up till 3 o'clock in the morning before my actual wedding day to finish up the cuff here. So my husband, well back then he was my fiance, he already went to sleep, and I stayed up in the bathroom of the hotel to finish this, and I did. So that's just a story testifying to how crazy I am about knitting. And yeah, it's a memory that I will forever hold dear in my heart. And yeah, so back to the pattern itself. This pattern comes in 5 sizes, so it goes from 103 centimeters to 127 centimeters. So that's a 40.5 inch to a 50 inch bust, and I made the size M. And again, it's not completely size inclusive. And yeah, My Favorite Things Knitwear had been under fire for not being size inclusive, I think like earlier this year. And for her like patterns afterwards, she's included her expanded her size range a little. So I think that's a good sign. At least designers are willing to make changes. And yeah, so over this one I made no modifications and it fits pretty well. I haven't get a chance to block it since I was trying to finish it one day before my wedding, and afterwards I just never wanted to block it. I just never gathered up. I quickly moved on to other projects. And yeah, so let me turn around and show you the whole thing. So this is the front. So let's move on to the last one. So the sun is already starting to set, and luckily I'm on to the last one because I really wanted to film everything under daylight so you can see how the beautiful mohair kind of go up under the sunlight. And yeah, so this is the Aura Top by Rose Knitwear. It's this lightweight long sleeve sweater featuring these very structured and modern looking satin sleeve design, and it's knitted on large needles paired with single strand mohair to give it this open and airy feel, this sheer fabric. So if you have like a tattoo like I do here, it's going to peek through from this sheer fabric, and I think that's super cute. And I think this piece is very good for layering, so you can pair something underneath like I'm doing here. So I'm wearing a knitted bralette here, and if you've knitted a bralette or some cute camisoles for the summer, this is a very good chance to still showcase the knits in the upcoming transitional season. And alternatively, you can layer something on top of it, so like a knitted tank or like a vest, and you can also pair like a blazer over everything, and I think those will all be very cute looks, and I'm so eager to try them in the upcoming season. And so construction wise, this one is knitted bottom up, so you knit in a round until the underarm, and you split and knit the front and the back piece back and forth. And the real challenge with this one is, of course, with the sleeves. So I really love this design, and when I cast it on, little did I know that the sleeves are knitted in pieces. And basically you have to seam the whole arm up with mattress seaming. So here, all around the underarm. And that part I can do, is not like too complicated. The challenging part is sewing on the sleeve cap. So for this one, you have to use three kind of sewing methods: horizontal to horizontal, vertical to vertical, and vertical to horizontal. So if you're up for the challenge, definitely give it a try because I really love the finished result. And also it's pretty lenient, so if you're like afraid that your seaming is going to look crooked, since this is a mohair like fuzzy yarn, and I use like a variegated color, and also it's on these big needles, so open gauge, they all make the seaming very like lenient. So even though I did fudge things here and there, after blocking, the line still looks pretty straight for me. And yeah, so the yarn I used is again La Vietnamese silk mohair, one of my favorite silk mohairs. And I have a single, and the colorway is Nadia. So it's this very beautiful dark pink color with speckles of purple and blues and gold and greens. It's this very beautiful, it gives me intense like wild rose garden vibes, and I really love it. And yeah, so the pattern comes in 8 sizes. It's inclusive up to a 147 centimeter, which is a 58-inch bust, and I made a size M, so it is a very good inclusive size range. And for modifications, I shortened the body for about 20 centimeters. And so it's designed as a long sweater. And the reason for that is because I only had one skein of that beautiful hand-dyed mohair, and that wasn't going to be enough to make it full length. So I cropped it a lot to make it a cute crop length, and I even had some leftovers. So it is a very good chance to use up some of your precious long skeins that sometimes it can be hard to find projects for those. And yeah, so apart from that, I have nothing to add. So let me do one last time the turnaround scene. I'm really enjoying this. And yeah, so that concludes everything. Let me sit down. It's been quite a lot of cardio, taking things on, taking things off, putting it on again. So that's all the mohair garments I've knitted so far, and as you can probably tell, I love them. I love the knitting process, and I also love wearing them afterwards. So I plan to make many more in the future, and I'm planning this pattern recommendation / future plans video entirely dedicated to mohair knits. I have already noted down all the patterns that I would really like to cast on. And I think that video is coming very soon because I have to channel that cast on excitement into that video to avoid casting everything on at once. And yeah, so if you're interested, definitely stay tuned for that. And with that, I think I'm going to say goodbye. So if you stayed till here, I really want to say a big thank you. I know that time is very precious, and leisure time is even more precious. And the fact that there are people choosing to spend it with me, I just feel so honored. And yeah, so with that, I'll head off, and I wish you have a lot of cozy crafty time in the upcoming fall, and very happy knitting. Bye!